Serve as the moderator for this panel, Avenues to Early and Better Regulatory Access. I'll kick things off by asking each of our panelists to briefly introduce themselves, starting, Heather, with you.
I get to go first this time, yep. So I'm Heather Murphy. I'm a senior clinical evaluation specialist with BSI. Prior to this role, I was a quality manager in industry, and I'm also an adult and pediatric intensive care nurse.
I'm Kelli Oborn. I am by trade an R&D engineer. But I work for BSI as a senior technical specialist and scheme manager. So I have a bunch of experience in the R&D manufacturing world, and I implement it when I review technical and clinical data for vascular devices.
Wonderful. We also have a representative from FDA who is joining us online. Do we have Kai? Are you with us?
Hi. Yeah, Chris, can you hear me?
We hear you.
Oh, great. Yeah, I'm Kai Kadoich. Apologies for having to dial in virtually here, but it's a pleasure to be here. I work at FDA's Total Product Lifecycle Advisory Program for medical devices. I'm based out of Minnesota. I've worked in the medtech industry for 16 years, around 2 years here at FDA, and the rest of the time was in industry. I'm a kind of a business person, marketing, strategy, business development, M&A background. And I started my career as a strategy consultant for medtech and drug companies. Thanks a lot.
We're glad to have all of you here today. We're going to proceed with our panel. A little bit of it's going to be presentation based, and then we're going to get into some question and answer. I have a few questions, and then we're going to open it up to the audience. I'd like to go ahead and start, Kai, with you. I believe we have your slides available. Would love to hear about what we have available to us at the FDA in terms of early access programs.
Thank you.
I see the slides in front of me, but I only see Kai's face on the side. So just give us a sec, Kai.
Thank you.
All right, we're live.
All right, and I unfortunately cannot see the slides, Chris.
We have basically your introductory slide with your info. So let's move to the next slide if we can.
Yeah, okay, overview. That's
Perfect.
Great.
Yep.
Yeah, so so today I'm just going to take you all real briefly on a kind of a whirlwind tour of FDA's pre-market interaction programs and mechanisms for medical devices. I'm going to cover Q-subs, Breakthrough Device Designation, and the TAP program. So next slide, please. This slide's titled Q submissions. As many of you know, oh yeah, I can see now, perfect. Next slide, please.
Oh, do I use it? Let's see.
Oh, here we go, perfect. Yep, this is it. Thank you so much. Sorry about that. So yeah, as many of you know, FDA has over 2,000 guidance documents, which are used by industry as well as staff. So I'm going to point out a few of those here. First, the Q-Sub program offers a way for device developers to interact with FDA at different pre-market time points free of charge. There are multiple Q-Sub types, but today I'm going to focus on informational meetings, pre-submissions or pre-subs, and requests for breakthrough device designation. Next slide, please. So informational meetings and pre-subs are the primary pre-market interaction mechanisms that are used by industry. Informational meetings allow developers to orient review staff to their devices and share information on development plans informally. This can help to avoid confusion later around what the device is and what it actually does. And you also get a review office and a lead reviewer assigned to your device at an early stage, which can be very helpful. Pre-subs are more formal requests for written feedback where a developer submits information around a specific review topic like mechanical testing plans or clinical study design and asks specific questions for FDA feedback. This can be followed by a live meeting as well if requested. And at that meeting, you can ask clarifying questions to the FDA team. You can see the associated timelines with these feedback mechanisms here. Next slide, please. So this is an example of kind of using these mechanisms in parallel with device development. So in this case, the developer starts with an informational meeting, followed by two pre-subs, one on some aspect of non-clinical testing and another around their early feasibility study design. Post EFS IDE, additional pre-subs are requested along the same lines, although with an eye toward requirements for pivotal IDE approval. Developers are encouraged to interact with FDA early and often to avoid misalignment and delays at later stages. Next slide, please. So the last type of Q-sub I'll talk about here is request for breakthrough device designation. This is a voluntary program established by Congress to support devices that provide a more effective treatment or diagnosis of life-threatening or irreversibly debilitating diseases or conditions. And yes, there is a guidance document for this too. It's pretty good, so I recommend it if you're interested. Next slide, please. So the two criteria for breakthrough device designation are listed here, with criterion 1 being that the device offers that more effective treatment or diagnosis for a life-threatening or irreversibly debilitating disease. And that's really critical for a breakthrough application. And then you see on the bottom, criterion 2, there are 4 ways to satisfy that, and you just need to satisfy one of those 4 ways in order to satisfy criterion 2. The Breakthrough Program offers a variety of benefits to innovators that are outlined in the guidance document, and that includes interactive and timely communication with the FDA review team via what's called breakthrough sprints, which are kind of like pre-subs, but meant to be more interactive and more timely, specifically focused on a specific topic. So that's a real brief overview of Q-subs and breakthrough. And then next slide, please. Next, I'm going to talk about the TAP program, which is relatively new. The Total Product Lifecycle Advisory Program, or TAP, is a pilot program started a couple years ago, and we're focused more holistically on the full path to not just FDA marketing authorization, but to broader patient access and widespread adoption of innovative medical technologies. As many of you know, FDA clearance or approval is oftentimes just the first hurdle to clear on the path to broad adoption. Oftentimes that's called the medical device valley of death. And TAP aims to help novel device developers to gain strategic insights and feedback, not just from FDA on the regulatory side at an early stage, but also from other critical downstream stakeholders like patients, providers, and payers, in order to make better informed plans and better prepare for ultimately commercializing the device in the future and ultimately getting the device to patients. Next slide, please. So there are 3 features of the TAP program I'll talk about here. First is the middle, TAP advisors. That's what I am. And we're a relatively new team at CDRH. We sit under the Office of the Center Director, and we work directly with TAP innovators, participants in the program. We offer a diverse set of both FDA and industry experience, subject matter expertise, and facilitate engagement with the various parties, help navigate resources, and provide relevant expertise to innovators. Next is the bottom left corner of the triangle, if you will, and that's sort of TAP's regulatory service line, which offers even faster and more frequent pre-market engagement with FDA review teams via TAP-only FDA feedback mechanisms. The last is the bottom right-hand corner. That's TAP's commercialization service line, if you will, where we enable innovators to gain strategic insights from non-FDA parties to better inform their market adoption and patient access plans. And through that, we offer curated resource modules around patient engagement, clinical adoption, reimbursement to help assist and educate innovators as they prepare for non-FDA party engagements that we can facilitate. Next slide, please. So this is just a quick rundown of the regulatory offerings or mechanisms that TAP offers. The 14-day teleconference is new. It's the fastest thing I think FDA potentially offers in a pre-market setting. And they're for simple topics like bench test strategy or the synopsis of a clinical study design. And we really use those to broadly align with the review teams around a strategy or an approach. And then the 21 and 40-day written feedbacks you see there, they're more akin to a pre-sub, just on a faster timeline. And it's CDRH's MDUFA goal to achieve all of these within their specified timelines 90% of the time. Next slide, please. And in terms of some of the commercialization topics we cover in TAP, participants may seek input from, for instance, specialty societies around evidence planning for clinical adoption, or to get a handle on current clinical practice and how that would be impacted by adopting a new technology. Reimbursement is a huge piece of the market adoption puzzle, as many of you know, so we can connect innovators to the appropriate public resources, such as from CMS or the American Medical Association, as well as help them get insights and alignment from groups like AMA, societies, and payers. Finally, patient input or patient engagement, whether it's around device designs or clinical studies, It's, of course, extremely critical and has made a meaningful impact for many, many TAP innovators as well. Next slide, please. So to be enrolled in TAP, the device needs to be breakthrough designated or in the Safer Technologies Program, or STEP. The device needs to be early in the early development stage. You see there in the middle part there. And there are a few other exclusion criteria that you see listed here as well. Complete details can be found on our TAP website if you just search FDA TAP, and there's a link at the end here. The yellow box in the bottom right highlights that since we're still a pilot program, we haven't expanded across all of CDRH review teams. And so I'll show you where we're operating on the following slide. Next slide, please. So as of today, devices in the clinical areas in the red box there you see can apply to TAP. This is devices that are reviewed by Offices of Health Technology 1A, 2, 5, 6, and 8. And we expanded into STEP devices from October 1st, from this fiscal year. All right, next slide, please. And then this is the last for me. Devices which get a breakthrough or STEP designation and seem eligible to TAP will receive an email from our TAP program, but anyone can apply by simply submitting an amendment to the Q sub where the device received that original breakthrough or STEP designation. And again, this is all available on our website as well. So last slide is just some resources. I've been at FDA 2 years now, and I've been pleased just to see how much is really out there and available to the public. But you can reach out to our program or myself if you ever have any questions. And thanks again for this opportunity to share.
I don't think it's up yet. We're going to wait to switch slides here. I've handed over the clicker, which doesn't work perfectly, but it does work.
All right, Kelli and I are really going to discuss from a European perspective some avenues to early and better regulatory access. Hopefully the clicker works. All right, we're good. So as we all know, MDR introduced, more safety and transparency, but it also created longer review timelines. And so a lot of the feedback we get is we need a more predictive regulatory submission process and timeline. So we have it's a greater disadvantage, I think, for startups and micro companies, when you have increased expenses and longer regulatory timelines to get products on the market. So we have 2 new pathways that we're looking at that are going to be introduced in response to some of these complexities that were introduced, which is the EU Breakthrough Device Pathway. And it's a proposal aimed at faster access of innovation to patients in Europe. Kai went ahead and presented first because it really is inspired by the FDA model. And the focus is on truly innovative and novel devices meeting an unmet medical need. The second is going to be the UK Innovative Devices Access Pathway. Again, it's going to focus on unmet medical needs and innovative devices. And I'm going to turn it over to Kelli now to focus more on what the predictability is and how we can actually apply that.
Okay, thank you. And we are going fast on purpose, by the way.
Yes.
So just so everybody remembers, BSI is an EU notified body, and we are also a UK approved body. So we can talk for both the EU and UK stuff. But what is needed for predictability? The biggest complaint, like Heather was saying, that we get is these timelines. Why are the timelines so increased with MDR? Well, a lot of it is just, maybe you guys didn't really understand the MDR when you submitted. You're getting questions from us that you didn't expect, and that takes longer, so on and so forth. So we do have, we're trying to make it a robust, transparent, and predictable and sustainable regulatory framework. So basically what BSI has done is they've created a program called Structured Dialogue, which is across UK legislation and EU legislation. And basically it's where you can reach out to any BSI salesperson or your scheme manager if you are already a client and say, hey, I want to participate in Structured Dialogue. I want to talk to one of your experts. You don't need a contract, which is different than other notified bodies. They will require a contract. BSI will not require a contract for you to have this conversation with us. And what it really is it really is just a conversation. And it's great for something like breakthrough devices, those novel devices, because it gives you a chance to come to us and say, okay, I have this novel device, do you agree with this classification? Or can we talk about what routes of conformity are available to me? And all of those different fun conversations where you can actually talk to an expert like me, like Heather, like one of our other many colleagues throughout the world. So like I was saying, we allow about an hour, and you request a meeting. The biggest thing for us is that you tell us what you want to talk about first. So if it's a novel breakthrough device, you specifically state, this is my novel breakthrough device. And, these are kind of the high-level parameters, and this is what we want to talk about, because that makes better use of all of our time, right? And then remember what time zone you're in, because BSI has reviewers all over the world. So this slide is actually one of my favorites. It's what's allowed and what's not allowed. And I'm sure that any of you that have had a review done by BSI and have had personal conversations with any of us, we have said, hey, please remember, we can't consult. Same thing in structured dialogue, we can't consult. So we are allowed to tell you what is available to you, but we cannot tell you how to do it. That's something to always remember, but these conversations through structured dialogue can still be so incredibly useful to you for novel devices, or even for a device that's been on the market for a while, but you're not sure if the classification has changed between the MDD and the MDR, or maybe it's a device with a coating on it, and you think it might need to go through the medicinal consultation, or it's a class 3 implant, it may need to go through CECP, and you have questions on that. All of those things are things that we can directly talk to you up front so that you can plan your timelines better. And I have a QR code. There you go. Oh, there we go. So if you scan this QR code, it just goes to a fun little website, white paper from BSI that explains what structured dialogue is. So 1, 2, 3, I hope everybody gets that. And then this is our,
Go back.
we can go back. This is our ending slide. Basically, this is just if you guys want to learn more about some of our different webinars that we have available for things like breakthrough the devices, structured dialogue, so on and so forth. We do have that available to us as well. To you, not to us.
All right. We're going to leave that up, and we're going to go ahead and get started on some questions. I thank you all for your presentations. I think the material is really interesting. It's a particular interest to me. I work a small med device company, and we have been involved with a breakthrough device of recent. I've actually entered into the TAP program. We don't work directly, Kai, with you as our TAP advisor. We have another TAP advisor. But it's been a different experience than we've been used to with the FDA. Yet to do that on the BSI side of things, on the EU side of things, but I'm excited that we're starting to see programs like that develop across the pond as well. I think it's going to make a big difference as new technologies are developed to make sure that they get deployed effectively. So I had a couple of questions that I wanted to bring forward, and I'd like to make sure that we get some questions from the audience as well. So I'm going to monitor for that as we go through the rest of the panel today. And the first question that I'd like to ask is, so the pathways we've discussed, they're all very device focused, but there are combination devices that cross the device drug or device biologic boundary. So what options do regulatory teams have to discuss breakthrough combination devices with each of you? So Kai, speaking from the FDA, you guys, perfect. Glad to see your face again, Kai. Welcome. I'd love to hear your perspectives on other types of products and what's available for breakthrough pathways for those.
Kai, it's a little bit of a, should we let you virtually go first?
Okay.
Or you wanna,
Yeah, sure. I can do it real quick. Thank you. Yeah, it's always difficult, so I appreciate that. Yeah, just a few things about that. So TAP program, one of the exclusions was combination products you saw there. That's just because it's a CDRH only program. But the Breakthrough program and the STEP program are both open to device-led combination products. So I'd encourage people to look at that. I'll also say, I think I just put it on LinkedIn actually, the FDA Office of Combination Products also started a program called the Pre-RFD program, where you can kind of, in a similar vein to everything we've been talking about, interact with them and kind of get some preliminary feedback around how that device would be called from a drug device biologic combination as well. So that seems interesting. It's a new program. Thanks.
Heather, Kelli.
So I guess I'll start. So I just want to clarify, the structured dialogue is available to if you're not familiar with BSI, if you're currently a client, like to become a client, structured dialogue is available for anyone. You can go to the BSI website and request a structured dialogue discussion or conversation. For Chris's very specific combination product question, I think it's a good opportunity to, again, point out we can't consult. But we do have many pathways becoming available, and one of the things that we can do in those structured dialogue conversations is identify maybe the gaps that you have and what the regulatory requirements are going to be. I mean, this week we are looking at a breakthrough designation and anticipating some MDCG guidance by hopefully the end of the year on breakthrough designation. So these are things, like I said, take advantage of the resources around you.
Yeah, and once again, the UK has a special program as well, but for combination devices specifically, the one big thing I would say is plan for that to be a long process, because it does have to go through medicinal competent authority, and that takes ages. Most of the time, we as the reviewers will start and pretty well get all of our things done and before the competent authority medicinal reviewers have got halfway through theirs. So stretch your timelines, be aware of your timelines on that one, without a doubt.
Okay.
That's kind of the biggest gotcha.
Okay. I have a microphone here for anyone who wants to come up and be brave and ask some questions. You have access to experts, so this is a great time to learn a bit more. I'm going to set it just over here. So please, as we're asking the rest of these questions, make a line.
It's always fun when they give you that option on innovative new pathways.
Yeah.
Just coming up, ask a question now.
Oh, we'll take one from Derek. Why don't you go ahead and then we'll get back and kind of pepper questions back and forth.
Derek Lewis with Australia Scientific. Just curious on the structured dialogue. I'd heard a little bit about them at RAPS Convergence about a month ago. I was just curious on if there's particular timeline you should expect on turnaround for scheduling these kinds of interactions, and also cost that we should expect.
The cost is going to be an hourly cost. I'm honestly not sure exactly what it is. We like to schedule it for 1 hour, and the timelines can be pretty quick depending on who exactly you want to talk to. So if you want to talk to somebody like me, it would probably be like, yeah, we can set up a meeting in a week, maybe 2 weeks. If you want to talk specifically to a microbiologist, your lead time is going to be longer because there's not as many of that particular expertise. For somebody on the AI team, it might maybe be quicker. I'm not quite sure, but that's really where, if you're already a BSI client, talk to your scheme manager and just say, hey, I want to have structured dialogue. How soon can you get me in? This is exactly what I want to talk about.
Yeah, and just to add to that, we have teams, so if you go to the site and submit that application requesting structured dialogue, you're gonna get all that information before you agree to anything. So they'll let you know what the timelines are, they'll let you know what the quote is.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, and the scheme manager will work directly with you as well to make sure, scheme manager or another project manager will work directly with you to make sure that it works and it lines up and try and get time zones worked out.
Okay. Well, we talked in our last panel about AI and how it is influencing life science. and not only from a tool perspective, but from a device and broader life science perspective as well. And I think there are a lot of opportunities for breakthrough or for AI to help us get to new breakthroughs. And I'm wondering, are there any considerations regulatory teams should take into account when considering breakthrough pathways for new AI-enabled technologies? Is that any different?
You want to take it?
I was going to let Kai actually speak
okay,
first since he has
let-
established pathways.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so I have some thoughts about AI. Certainly AI ML devices, there's been a lot of work done at CDRH. Highly recommend using these mechanisms that I talked about to interact with the review teams, especially when it comes to things like clinical validation plans, cybersecurity, usability, or human factors are often required for some of these devices. Those are certainly gotcha areas. Predetermined change control plan is a new mechanism introduced by CDRH recently, where you can pre-specify changes that you're going to make to the device once it's FDA marketing authorized. That's certainly a topic of pre-subs, tap interactions, whatever it may be, as well, to align around how you're approaching that with the review teams. Highly recommend that. I also just wanted to drop a plug that the Digital Health Center of Excellence just had a Gen AI town hall meeting, Gen AI for mental health devices, which was fascinating. See a bunch of experts come together and talk about that. A lot of really big questions, not just regulatory questions, but clinical, societal questions there, and that should be available online if it's not already now. But the one thing I wanted to end on is the biggest challenge. The biggest thing in terms of getting to market, I feel like, and maybe everyone in the room, this isn't necessarily your thing, but business model, reimbursement, clinical adoption, so many of these devices, they get to marketing authorization, and then it's like, oh yeah, how is this thing going to get paid for? And how am I going to get this into a hospital? And who's going to use it? And how are they going to use it? It's unfortunate. So much time is spent at the beginning on the clinical, technical, regulatory aspects, but especially for this area, which is just emerging and novel and unestablished in so many ways, I encourage you to work with your colleagues on those commercialization aspects, more so than perhaps a normal medical device. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's particularly interesting, especially as you talk about using these early access pathways, potentially even under TAP, to help build out your reimbursement potential for a device such as this. Heather, Kelly, do you guys have some thoughts?
For EU and UK, I have no idea about reimbursement. We don't touch that. So lucky us there. But from the technical perspective and clinical as well, plan early, I would say, is kind of the biggest thing. You're going to have more documentation that you will have to submit for an AI device because of all the other types of validation that you're going to be needing to do to validate your AI, and especially from a clinical perspective. So yeah, once again, structured dialogue, talk to one of our experts, make sure you have your ducks in a row as to what to expect on the different types of validation, and work with your notified body, whether it's BSI or somebody else, on what are those steps that you're going to need to be taking, what are those specific validations. And structured dialogue is actually a part of legislation, so all of the EU notified bodies will do structured dialogue with you, not just BSI. BSI is just better because we'll do it even if you don't have a contract with us. And, we work there, so I got to give a plug, right?
And I just want to, even though, we're all excited about the predictability that's going to be coming with the new guidance on breakthrough, we've always had, or have been able to assist with routes to conformity. We have certificates with conditions. There's multiple options available for the devices that you have.
Great. Do we have any more audience questions? I have another prepared question, but we want to make sure we get everybody an opportunity to talk who'd like to. All right. Last question I have then is if a regulatory team secures breakthrough designation, let's say in the USA first or in the EU first, under the program that is forthcoming. Could that technology still have breakthrough designation potential in the other geography? And would you suggest that a team that's pursuing breakthrough in one geography pursue it in other locations as well? Kai, what are your thoughts? If there was a breakthrough device in Europe first, could it also land as a breakthrough in the US?
Yeah, I mean, the review teams are going to do their own assessment of the breakthrough designation request based on all the available or the relevant information submitted. So, you know, but if that OUS breakthrough information is included in the submission, you know, it's something that would be looked at. But I think our teams will look at, you know, the future clinical and technical success and those specific criteria that are outlined by the legislation first and foremost. I will say whether you should go for one geography or the other, you know, I think it just depends on the company's strategy and the resourcing, the focus. Sometimes I see companies where they go for these, you know, they kind of put a lot of hands out to a lot of different geographies, but then they can't follow up and do the work required to actually get the device to market, right? So I just encourage you to think about, you know, what's with your business partners, like what are your priorities and what are your plans, and then your breakthrough request should follow along those. Thank you.
Thanks, Kai.
Yeah, we're pretty much going to have the same response. Your submission has to show that it's a breakthrough novel device. The advantage of potentially going through the FDA first is hopefully you have some data from actually selling in the US that you can then use in your submission to the EU or UK to leverage for clinical safety and performance. That would be our hope, right?
Yeah. I'd say distribution in multiple markets is
Yeah.
absolutely a business decision. So I would, now that we're on the BSI, not industry side.
Yeah, it wouldn't hurt to go to one or the other first, because if you went to the US first and then came to the EU, then hopefully you have US data. If you went vice versa, I'm sure that the US would at least take EU data into account.
They definitely have different criteria. So
Yeah.
with anything else that you've seen with FDA and EU, or you're going to have to assess it per that criteria.
Okay. Any last questions? I think we're just at time. Appreciate all of our panelists. I think with that, we're going to conclude this panel. Thank you again, expert panelists, on participating. We really appreciate you and your efforts. Kai, thank you for joining us from your location. Thank you all. And we appreciate the opportunity to learn about these takeaways on early access opportunities for different devices. So, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.